talk session tonight. Tonight we are having another educator from different part of the world. Tonight our guest is a senior global educator at Arizona State University in Global Launch Department, Alissa Nostas. And she's come and we will start a live session with her, and we will see. I'm waiting for her to join. Yeah, there she is, Alissa. You just send me the request, Alissa, to join the live session, then I'll accept it. Alright, then I'm gonna accept. Now we're gonna wait a little bit for Alissa to join. I'm waiting for her. Instagram, it takes time to join. Just a moment, Alissa. Now you will see it. Accept my request, Alissa. Yes. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Of course, it's very clear. I can hear you, Alissa. It's wonderful.
Thank
Yeah, it's
thank you
great
for
to see
having
you.
me, boyfriend. I appreciate it.
It's wonderful to having you here tonight on Teacher Talks under 73rd session, Alissa. I'm really happy, and I would like to say that thank you very much for accepting my invitation for the Teacher Talk session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again. So,
You're welcome. And I know you are very busy, you work hard, and if you are ready, can we start?
yes, I'm going to take off my headphones because they just stopped working. So I'm just going to do this. Hopefully the sound is not too bad.
No, the sound is great. It's great. We
Okay.
can do like this. Okay, I know about you, Alissa, but maybe our audience would like to know about you. Can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Yes. Well, at first, I just want to say thank you again for having me. It's such a pleasure to be a
You're
part of
welcome.
this professional development experience. So, I've actually been an English teacher, language teacher off and on since the year 2000. So I've taught in the US, Ecuador, Egypt, and Kuwait. And I'm currently
Uh-huh.
working at Arizona State University in a department called Global Launch, which is our global training unit for international students and professionals. And I've been there for about 10 years. And in that time, I've worked as an English language instructor, but I've also been working as a teacher trainer.
Okay.
And I also
Mm-hmm.
in the past 5 years, I started working as a instructional designer, designing online courses that have been used in a variety of contexts, including the Open program, which some of your attendees might be familiar with.
Yeah.
And I actually met you, and I didn't hear the first part of your introduction, but I met you through the Making English Come Alive program this summer, which was sponsored by the U.S. Department of State and the Relo Ankara. And I was an English language specialist, and I had the pleasure of working with great teachers like you. So
Yeah, thank
that's
you.
just a little bit
That was a
about me.
pleasure.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. And so, Alicia, what was or were your turning points and points in your own education?
So actually, when I think about a question like that, I often think about my high school experiences,
Uh-huh.
probably because those are very formative years when you're a student, right, and in your education. And so I had some great teachers in high schools, and they really
Wonderful.
inspired me. I had an amazing Spanish teacher who inspired me to learn the language. And she was just very creative and very communicative in her approach. So that really inspired me. And then also, in my third year of high school, I had a history teacher. And he decided to teach us kind of what was not traditionally taught in US schools at the time. So he taught us the history of Guatemala, the history of
Oh,
China, the history of different parts of Africa. And it just made me, it was just so eye-opening. You know, I was probably 15 years old. It was just so eye-opening and made me really want to learn about these places, their cultures, their languages, and visit and work these places. So I knew I had to get a job that would
yeah.
help me to do that. And I thought about teaching because I've always enjoyed like
Got
working
it.
with others and teaching. So those I think were some of my
Oh,
more formative experiences.
uh-huh. I got it. Thank you for sharing, Alissa, with us. All right then. So I know you have been working as a teacher for a long time, and probably in this your career, you have tried different methodologies, different techniques, and different strategies in your teaching, and probably you have a philosophy of teaching. What is it? What is your philosophy of teaching, Alissa?
So I think it's probably similar to some of your audience members, but I really do believe in the communicative approach that
Uh-huh.
emphasizes really the importance of meaningful interactions and real life communications to really help students to learn the language. And, you know, now, especially since I've been teaching for so long, I really truly believe in creating an inclusive, equitable, and accessible classroom where all students feel valued and capable of contributing regardless of their backgrounds or abilities. And I think if you can create an atmosphere like this that's safe and supportive, you'll be able to really encourage risk taking, which I think is really important in language learning. You know, you have to take risks when you learn a language, and you also I think it helps with collaboration as well, which is also important for language learning. And so I think that really helps to ensure that every student has the opportunity to engage, participate, to grow in their language development.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
I think
got it.
that's kind of, in a nutshell, a very short short summary of my
No,
teaching
that's great.
philosophy.
That's great philosophy. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alicia. And what I want to ask another question. We are educators and we have a lot of stories in our career. Some bad stories, some good stories, some failed and some success stories we have. Can you tell us one or maybe two success stories of yours, something inspirational? But if you want to talk about some failed stories, we are also ready to listen.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we all have our failures, but maybe I'll focus more on the success because that's a little bit more
Perfect.
positive. Though,
Yeah.
even though we do learn from our failures. So when I first came to ASU in 2015, I had a student in my advanced language course. You know, he was 18 and he was just starting the university and he wasn't actually quite prepared for class. He didn't quite have the study skills that were needed. So I worked with him a lot to get him ready to finish our program and to enter the university and to take, you know, to enter into the mainstream courses. And he actually found me 4 years later, and he was just on the point of graduating. And he thanked me for all my help. And he said that was what really kind of turned the corner for him, and he was actually going to be going into a master's program. So I was just
Wow.
really happy to hear that story. And then I think a lot of what's also inspired me has been just comments from a lot of the educators that I've worked with, like you. Just some of the
Thank
things
you.
that they've told me after they've been in my sessions. But I want to share one where I was working with a participant in the open course, and she told me that because of my interactions with her, because of the kind of feedback that I was giving, she felt inspired to change how she works as a teacher educator. So that was just really
Wow.
like, you know,
Yeah,
made
yeah.
me tear up a little bit.
But it's really
So,
wonderful to have these kind of stories, and
yeah.
and at after that you remember them and you remember what have you done, what have you did, and what are the effects of it right to now. It's really interesting. So they're really important in our life.
Yeah, and it makes you want to continue, right, with teaching because sometimes there are
Exactly.
moments when you really want to cry and not continue teaching. So, yeah, so you just
Maybe
have to
that's
remember
why.
those positive stories.
Maybe that's the reason we become teachers, to
Right,
have that successful stories in our lives. Okay, thank
exactly.
you, thank you. And again, saying about educator, we are educators, and you are also very experienced teachers. And as a teacher, we need to have some qualities and skills as a teacher or language teacher or another kind of teacher that we have. And when you think about your experiences, And what are the most important qualities and skills an English language teacher or the general teacher should possess?
Oof. I think there are a lot. I mean, we teachers have to wear
Maybe
many
couple.
different hats, right? But
Yeah.
one I would say is really strong communication skills, right? We have to have the ability to really explain concepts clearly and effectively to our students. So that's, I think, one skill. I think another is maybe qualities are patience and empathy, because we
Oh,
really need to be
important
able to
points.
understand the challenges that our language learners face. And so that's why they say in order to become a language teacher, you should always learn a language, another language. And so just because then you start understanding some of the challenges they face. And I would say maybe adaptability. So this idea of having
That's
this
important also.
flexibility, right? Yeah, to adjust your lessons and your strategies based on student needs or based on just what's about to happen in the classroom, right? Something all of a sudden changes. So just being really,
Definitely.
yes, I'm sure you can speak to that as well.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of, as you mentioned, the most important ones, really. Okay, thank you very
You're
much, Alicia.
welcome.
Okay, so Alicia, we have just, the school started in Turkey, as you know that, and today is the first day of the school, the
Oh, wow.
new semester.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And what I'm gonna ask you that, and there are a lot of teachers, and they looking for the activities for the first week. Maybe you can give some one or maybe two activities that we can use for the first week of the school, something that you used to use it with your students.
Yeah, so I kind of have a traditional bucket of icebreakers that I use. And so, the icebreakers, of course, are to build rapport with your students, right? And to make them more comfortable. So, I
Uh-huh.
mean, one that I use a lot, and I can't remember if we used this with you, but was two truths and a lie,
Yeah.
right? Two truths and a lie, where you write down, the students are to write down two true things about themselves and one lie, and then everyone has to guess which is the lie. And that's a really good icebreaker because it gets the students laughing. You can do it from basic all the way to advanced levels. So that's one I like to do a lot. Um,
I got it.
and, yeah. And another one is just even small, depending on the level of the students, but I often, especially with my advanced students, I have them do mini presentations of themselves. But where they can create slides and they add pictures, and I always do one of myself too, like
Mm-hmm.
this is my family, these are my hobbies, this is what I like to do in my free time, this is whatever it is. And then we present either to the whole group or they can present in small groups.
I
Um,
got
yeah, so
there. By the way, that
activities like that.
yeah, yeah, but that kind
Right.
of activities also it really helps to create a kind of a rapport with the
Mhm,
students, especially.
mhm.
They're really
Yeah,
great
and that's the
activities.
important thing.
hmm
Right. Yeah, and the one other thing I always make sure to do is I have them fill out an information sheet, where they tell me information about themselves. And this gives me an opportunity. I also ask them to rate themselves, like, for example, on their abilities with their skills, like how strong is their reading, their writing, their listening, their speaking in English. I often ask them to do that and also ask them about any other information they want to share with me. And so I've had students, if they have some sort of disability, sometimes I've had students write down what that
hmm
is in that because it's a private, sheet that's only shared with me. So I just want to
Okay.
find out more information about my students so I can help to better, meet their needs.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much for these activities that you shared with us,
Yes, of
Alicia.
course.
And what I'm gonna ask you again, something related about it. The first week is always important for the teachers, and sometimes they really face some difficult moments for starting the new semester with the new classes.
Mhm.
So, what can you suggest, especially for the new teachers, for the first week of the schools? What can you suggest them?
Yeah, so I would say trying to build the rapport with students, as you were saying, Volkan, is really important, right? Focus on how do you create a welcoming, inclusive environment where they feel comfortable and valued. And so things like those icebreakers can really help to do that. Another thing I would say is setting clear expectations. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to, from the beginning, to communicate the class rules, the goals, the expectations for behavior and performance from the start. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be chaotic. And then the other thing I would say is establishing routines, right? That I feel I always try to have routines with my students, even with adult learners, because when you have consistent classroom routines, that helps the students feel safe and secure and really understand how the class is going to flow. So I try to create that and establish those routines right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I would think those three. And the other last thing is just really take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Because especially as a new
that's
teacher,
important.
everything is so overwhelming. So,
Yeah.
take care
Oh,
of yourself.
exactly. Teachers' well-being is also really important that you mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
And we
important.
often
Okay.
neglect it, right?
Yeah, you're right. Okay. And Alicia, we know that you're a queen of AI. We know that.
What?
Yeah, yeah, this is
I
true.
don't feel like the queen of AI.
Okay,
So,
so whatever. We know that you know a lot about AI, and you have really a lot of experiences about AI. So my next question, a couple questions will be about AI. So my first question is about AI is, you know, in AI has affected every part of the area that we have an education, a job, or another, I don't know, maybe some history or whatever you think it has affected and it's still affecting a lot. So when you
mhm.
think about it, especially in education part, what do you think about AI and effects on education?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, first of all, I have to say that I do love AI. I love, love, love AI. So I'm coming from that
We
perspective. So
all
just be aware of that. So, but I do recognize that it comes with so many challenges, right? I
uh-huh.
do think it will benefit education in the long run, but we need to figure out, first of all, how to use it responsibly and ethically. And we also need to figure out how to develop our students' AI literacy. And we also need to figure out how is AI going to change our activities, our assessments, and more that we do with students, right? Because I think a lot of the traditional assignments that we give with students maybe will have to be changed in order to go along with AI. And so I think
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot of change in education. I think if we have this talk in 10 years, it's going to look so different.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure it is. So I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alicia. And this, again, the next question is related about the students and teachers. You mentioned it. How does it affect the students and the teachers in the classroom? And why should or shouldn't the teacher use it?
yeah, so right now, obviously, we're still at very much at the beginning stages of AI use. So I think for teachers, AI can just feel so overwhelming. I mean, there's so many tools, right? I mean, we looked at what, 20 tools in our workshop this summer,
Yeah,
and there's so many
we
more great
did.
tools out there, and it's just overwhelming, right? And I think we need to ask ourselves these questions like, when should we use it? How should we use AI? How do we use it ethically and responsibly? But I do think that teachers, no matter what, should definitely use it. I mean, it's here to stay and it's constantly evolving. So we need to learn how to use it and use it well. And it's really our responsibility to teach our students how to use it well because we can't assume that they can. And
Yeah.
so I think that's one of our big challenges. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
I
it's
got
really
it.
it's having an enormous effect on all of us.
All of us. You're right. I got it. Thank you very much. And we know that you use AI often. You just mentioned it. I love AI. So probably you have couple, the tools, AI tools in your mind. Can you share with us two or three examples of tools, something
Yes.
useful?
So I do use them all the time um, in all facets of my work. And so I've actually been teaching a course right now. So I've
Wonderful.
used ChatGPT, of course,
We all
ChatGPT.
do.
Yes. I just used Twee the other day, TWEE, because I had a video from YouTube and I wanted to make some questions around it,
Uh-huh.
but I was like, oh, I can't think of any questions. So I used Twee to help me generate the questions pre and post. And then Diffit, I've used for some reading assignments,
Uh-huh.
DIFFIT. So for some reading assignments, I put a reading in and it generated activities and it generated questions for me. So those are kind of some of the ones that I've been using recently in my own teaching.
Wonderful. And what was the last one you mentioned?
Diffit, Diffit. I can write it in. No,
Diff. Again? Diffit.
I-T.
I.
Diffit.
Okay, IT. AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
I hope it's right.
I'm not sure if it's diffit.com or diffit.ai. I'm not sure what it
Okay.
is
All
at
right.
this
Something
moment.
different.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
Diffit.
I
If you
got
just
it.
put Diffit in Google, it'll come up.
Yeah, it'll come out. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for these great AI tools, Alicia. And that we just mentioned about the AI, and it's really difficult to follow the special technological developments and improvements in education world. I really wonder, how do you do that? How do you follow or catch up the technological developments in education world? What is your secret?
Well, part of my secret is part of my job. So part of my job is we have so Global Launch, my department at ASU, we have a big MOOC on Coursera, and it's
Uh-huh.
called Teach English Now. And we have a Facebook page, and we post 3 times a week for teachers. And so I'm the one that actually curates that page, so puts the post up and everything. So this has forced me to read a lot, to attend webinars, to read all these blog posts. And actually, there are certain bloggers I follow, like Russell Stannard. He's
Yeah,
a
that's
big
I'll do.
technology guru. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I actually found one this summer before I met you, and his name is Eric Kurtz. And he's the one that he's done a lot of work with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so those kinds of people I look to frequently to, follow kind of some of these technological improvements because there's just so much going on. So
I
I'd
see.
rather have somebody else do the work for me. So
Wonderful. It's great. Thank you. And what about this? We started to talk about the AI, and what do you think the future of language education will look like in the next decade?
wow, yeah. So I think that, well, first of all, I think that we'll definitely be using AI a lot more, right? It'll be a lot more AI assisted teaching and learning. And so we'll be able to leverage that AI to provide more accurate assessments, perhaps track student progress, create more personalized learning experiences. And I think we'll be transferring, hopefully, some of our administrative tasks to AI and freeing
Uh-huh.
up more time. So I think that's one thing. I think also we'll be focusing much more on blended and kind of blended learning.
I
So
see.
those options will be more available worldwide, I would imagine. I don't know, but that's what I'm imagining. And I think too that we'll be more focusing on global competence. So making sure that we teach our students the communication skills and the intercultural competence that they will need because we're living in more and more of a globalized society.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that we'll need to teach our students much more about how to navigate different cultures and, different contexts. So I think those are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that we'll see in the future in terms of language education in the next
Yeah,
decade or so.
I see. I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alicia. Alicia, we always, as a trainer or as an experienced teacher, you probably always give advices to the teachers or the people around you. But what is the best piece of teaching advice you have ever received?
Yeah, I would say it's to be flexible, kind of just roll with it, because things are never going to work out the way you want, right? You